The bulls rebounded very nicely today off the lows, but do we have continuation or do we get rejected again? We'll talk about it in today's video. I'll give you some levels on SPY, QQQ, and IWM. I'll look at some strong stocks and some relative weak stocks and get us up out of here. This is not meant to be a complete long recap video. I just want you to be prepared for tomorrow and the remainder of the week. If you do not know, the stock market only has 3 full days this week. So you want to be very mindful if you're trading weekly options, because I know people forget. They're like holding something and they're like, what do you mean the stock market? The stock market will be closed on Thanksgiving Day. Spend time with family, friends, loved ones, yourself, whoever. And then the stock market will be open on Friday, but it will be a very short day. Okay, so the volatility will really come in tomorrow and Wednesday about which direction we're going. All right, so let's talk about it. Let's get on the charts and give an idea of where this is going and what happened today. Okay, so on the day, I want you to look at this daily SPY movement here. Okay, and let me take off this volume profile. Let me turn on some moving averages here and let me make sure that the right moving averages are on 20, 50, 100, and I want to turn on the 200 as well. And then let's go here, there. I like my 200 to be in orange. And sorry, everybody, this wasn't ready already. I don't know how it got off of there. And there we go. Okay. So the moving averages here, guess what we're pushing right up into? When everyone got horned up and bulls started stepping up with that NVIDIA post-earnings move. Okay. The same type of look is starting to set up. And again, it's questionable. Can the bulls continue? Right? It's not the fact that the dip is getting bought. It's the fact that can you continue the move? And you've given us 1, 2 instances that you can. And we are past the 50% retracement of this post NVIDIA's drop. Okay. So if we pull a Fibonacci retracement here, you can see from the lows and the 50% move is right at those levels that I've been giving folks for the past week or so. 663. We broke above 663 and today we got above 667, which is 6,700 on the ES futures. Okay. Now guess where we're sitting right into the daily 50 and right into that 78.6 retracement. So this is going to be very key tomorrow. Do we see continuation and a big push above 671? If so, we're most likely going to try to take out that tariff high, right? We're pushing back up into 674, maybe 675. Okay. But if you see rejections or resistance, 670 struggling, 671 is struggling, it's pulling back underneath 670, 669, and then we fail back underneath, right? 667. Okay. That is the level I want to pay attention to. 667 and 666. Okay. Because that could be a very key spot that bulls are trying to pull back into, hold, and then rally. Okay. That is what I will be checking out for tomorrow, because look at the exact move we got from the post NVIDIA move. We kind of expect a pullback because we really didn't get one today on the hourly. Look at this hourly and it just grinds and grinds and grinds and grinds and grinds. No big, really nice pullback on the hourly, right? So when you get a grind like that, it will pull back, and it looks like it's doing it kind of after hours in the futures market session. And it's going to probably do it in the morning, depending on how the data reports. We got PPI at 8:30 Eastern. So an hour before the market opens. Does this not look very similar to this drop? Okay. We expect a pullback, right? But where is the pullback stop? It didn't stop here at 667. It blasted through it and went all the way back down to the lows. And then there you go. Okay. So this is going to be looking very similar, is that expect a pullback because we grinded today, but where does it pull back into, right? Does that hold and bounce, or do we continue back down to the lows? Back down to 660, 661, and then bears are back in control and we try to take that out. Okay. So that is going to be on watch highly tomorrow, as today was a low volume grind with no data. Bulls stepped in, people exited their shorts. It was a nice upside session, continuation from Friday. All right. So that's what I expect, right? I'm going to be watching those levels, mark it on your charts, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right. QQQ, same thing, 606. 606 gonna be very important. Today we straight up move off and grind, pop, gap up, pop, and then grind, right? So again, the stock market does not go up in a straight line, just like it does not go down in a straight line. That is not normal. So when I see a pop and a grind into a key level, that gives me a little hint that there could be a trap being set, and you can kind of see how it's rotating off of here. So I expect a pullback tomorrow right around 600. Okay. And then I want to mark the previous day's high, which we broke above, which is 597. So 600 and 597 are going to be very key if you're a bull that you want to hold above. 600, 597. You do not want it to blast past Friday's high and then we're back into here, right? Now, Brian, where's your bias if you do have slightly bit of a bias, right? I tried not to, but sometimes it's just hard not to as a trader sometimes when you're seeing things in the market and you've seen them multiple times, right? I talk about these gaps a lot of times, and gaps don't have to be filled immediately, but what I like to see is if a gap is unfilled and it pops and gaps and grinds, right? Especially on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ QQQ, I kind of would have liked it to rip down to 591, then fill that gap and then pop back up. That's what I would like to see today. And because it popped and then grinded up and we never got a pullback, I kind of expect potentially this. Just let you know that's kind of what I expect. All right. So it would be drastically pulling back, fill that gap. We're still in support. Bull step back in. We rally back higher, and then cool. We got a bottom. We got a higher low set. They cannot take back out that 591, and we rally back to the highs, and we're good. If this continues, then there you go. There's your answer. Bears still have control. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm expecting tomorrow into Wednesday. Ideally is, maybe one more pullback after the grind, pop and grind today, and then we settle in and see what the data has to say. All right. IWM, one of the stronger indexes, if not the strongest index in my opinion, simply because it got back above this kind of equal line here, and nice little bull flag forming here, right? So IWM, susceptible to rate cuts. So if there is any type of indication that there's a possibility of a rate cut, then IWM is going to rally, fill that gap to the upside. If it doesn't get rejected underneath 242 and underneath this fails back underneath 238, if it doesn't fail back underneath and holds, then IWM is still strong. So be mindful of the small caps. They are rallying. They're susceptible to rate cuts. If there's any inclination there's going to be a rate cut, then those IWM, upside could be a possibility. All right. Let's jump into a few stocks, some strong stocks that you need to keep on watch. We've been talking about them. Google, monstrosity, just absolute monstrosity. It gapped up today, gave us a pullback, and just very shallow. Like it was just so strong, breakout of new all-time highs, very shallow pullback back to 312, and then rallied into the end of the close. Now it looks like we're going to have another gap up. If you've never seen this before, the light gray area is when the market is closed or when the futures market is open. The black area is when we trade options or the market is open. So if this is up from the previous close, which was at 318, and we're up already $6, there's going to be another gap. If you've never seen gaps, right? I still need to make that video on gap fills or gap strategies, but this was what we call a gap and go. Right? It gaps up from positive data, positive news, a strong pre-market, gaps, tries to pull back and fill the gap and does not, and just holds above that gap and then just continues. So now Google is roughly up here pre-market. So there's going to be another gap. Now, the interesting thing is it only can go up so high in the short term, right? For someone to say, hey, it's time to profit take. I've had 1, 2, 3 gap ups, right? If you look back, I made a video on the Senku pattern, and I'm not too woo-woo about patterns necessarily, but they do play out sometimes. Senku pattern is 1, 2, and then a third gap up. And typically you have some type of first gap fill and we start getting some profit taking. Okay. So maybe tomorrow's Google's day. Took a little bit of an L on Google after it being a winning trade. Just letting you know, I like gap fills. I like pops and gap ups and then pull back into the gap. That's just one of my top A+ setups. If you traded Google to the upside and you're like, hey, I trade with strength, awesome job. Either way, you're winning. So Google top ticked it here, pulled back, was up about 10 to 12% right there. After that candle, I was expecting to target the open. I told the group that, and it just bounced off of there, reclaimed 9 EMA, and it's back to high. So stopped out at Google back up here at 317 and took a little bit of loss on the runners. I took a little bit of profit here, but had to stop out. It just did not continue where I wanted it to continue, which was back at least to the market open, which was at 310 and then 309. Just couldn't do it. All right. So I'm not going to give up on Google. I still like my strategy of any gap up. I will take a look at it because they could pay. All right. If you know, they can pay very nicely when those gaps fill. Look right here. See that big gap right there? All right. Pushes up a little bit higher in 2 days. Really, yeah, pretty much 2 days. There's the candle that signals it. There's the continuation. It goes from 294 back to 277. Right. So just want to put that on people's radar if they're unfamiliar. If you're not comfortable with that strategy, I definitely understand. All right. Amazon 227 market breaks above 227.50 into the 228. You got 230 in sight, but keep on watch that Amazon is pushing back up into some very heavy moving averages right here. So you want it to cleanly break above that level and don't trade into these moving averages. Let it clear above 228. You get 230, 230s. Nice. Then you got daily 20 up here, and you want SPY and QQQ to be moving in that way to the upside. All right. Apple, very strong, nice bullish consolidation here. We talked about it's very similar to Google, strongest stock in the market along with Google. And then there's a couple semiconductors, i.e. AVGO, that just absolutely ripped today with Google. All right. So one of the few stocks that is above their daily moving average right here, daily 20, back above it, took off on it at 270. There goes Apple up in 277 and 280. All right. Microsoft, nothing doing here, just sitting on the daily 200, trying to hold up and get some juice. Nothing really there. Netflix, still nice to the downside, relatively weak stock. Okay. So see this Netflix downtrend, trying to hold on to this, but still underneath those moving averages and the 9 EMA. I like a failure back underneath 106. Target is to 100, and then ultimate target into the mid 80s, in my opinion. Okay. Down into this level. And you kind of maybe need a little help from the overall market. If the market pulls back, there you go. Look towards Netflix. It should start accelerating to the downside. Now, I know you see this big gap up here, but there's really not a lot of strength and confirmation just yet below these moving averages to really get that pop on Netflix just yet. All right. So we need to see some more continuation. Tesla, folks, it's still kind of iffy. I mean, nice recovery today. Some may say that this is a bull flag off of here, Brian. Like, what are you talking about? There's the weekly 20 right there. That could be a hold, just like last time. Goes all the way back up into 440. Yeah, still need to clear some levels, right? So if the market gets some juice, then Tesla could reclaim back above 430. And then there's your juice back up into the 440s, 450, and that's a double bottom. If it continues to hold underneath 430 and then fails back underneath 420, then you get this straight up move, a lot of rejections, just like right there, and pulls all the way back through this gap, back underneath 400, and then you're pressing on the lows again. All right. And then that's a bear flag consolidation, trying to go lower. All right. NVIDIA, still nothing juice, still weak, right? No juice on NVIDIA. Okay. So be careful on NVIDIA trying to time this bottom. It's not really getting juice with the market, and it's still underneath 184, that previous all-time high. Right. I'm not saying don't pick up any shares, things like that, but just be careful. Nothing really doing here off of NVIDIA. I would say it's one of the weaker ones, right? It's not really moving. And look at the after hours pushing down back underneath 180. All right. AMD, same thing. All right. AMD is still weak as far as trying to fill this gap. This could have been the pop today to try to get that gap fill if the market can follow through, right? The market can follow through and we get those rejections on SPY and QQQ. AMD, Netflix, maybe even NVIDIA will start potentially accelerating back to the downside. All right. So look for those relative weak stocks if the market pulls back. Let's jump into AVGO. Monstrosity, along with Google. Monstrosity, just straight up off of the back above the daily 20, pushing up into these levels. I think it's still a little bit overextended necessarily, but it's strong. So yeah, just look for these highs. 386. What does it do at 386? Or does it fail back below the previous day high, back underneath 376? All right, so just mark those levels. It is a very volatile stock. Be careful. But yeah, just because it had a pop today does not mean you can't give it back tomorrow. So I just, very similar to this. All right, but we shall see what the market, that's why it's very key to understand what SPY and QQQ are going to be doing so you can understand which way those particular stocks might move. We got a nice rebound off of Bitcoin today, off of that 85, pushing back up into 90. Okay, so hood recovering. We shall see what it does at these moving averages. We got hood underneath 118. Okay, 118 was that big breakdown level. It's pushing right back up into it. We want to see what hood does at 118. We still got an unfilled gap here. So watch 118 and then watch that 113. All right, that is that previous reclaim level. So if we hold above this, we can push higher back above 118. If we fail back underneath this 113, then you got, gap fill and back into 100 in my opinion. So trying to target that at 100 exactly. All right. Oracle, still weak in my opinion. Nothing really doing there that I'm interested in other than just watching to see if it accelerates. Still underneath the daily 200. Meta, nice pop today off Meta. Nothing really doing. If you bought some shares, we talked about that. Bought shares of METU, right? Obviously, there's going to be some type of recovery off Meta. The fact is, where is the recovery going to? That's the key. You expect a rebound recovery, but where is it going to? Because is it going to pop and continue, or are we popping and then fading again? Don't know yet. Okay. One final thing. Let's look at SMH. Okay. The semiconductor ETF. As we can see, semiconductors are rebounding pretty nicely on the backs of AVGO. Right up in the daily 50. We got a little bit higher to go back in the tariff highs. It looks very similar to QQQ. So watch this with QQQ. If this starts failing and rolling over, then there's your answer. There's your lower high. If it starts pressing and pressing, wait to those tariff highs. All right. Cool. Well, without further ado, thank y'all so much. I appreciate you. Like beyond words, I thank you for the support, the kind words, the questions. I try to get back to them as quick as possible. Again, if you want to join Leverage University, this week is our Black Friday sale. Type in Black Friday with a discount down below with that first link with Leverage University. All right, we'd love to have you inside. If you have any questions, you're welcome to join the WAP, the free newsletter, and then ask questions inside the WAP. Say, hey, Brian, I'm really on the brink of joining. I'm trying to think about it. I'm struggling, or I'm trying to figure out how to trade. Or if you're an experienced trader, if you just want to come in and hang out with some folks and you're tired of trading alone, I think it's always cool to hang out with people. All right. Thank y'all so much. Use that code Black Friday. I'll see y'all in the next video. And remember, trade safe this week. Peace, love, and blessings. Bye-bye.